Podcast. This is Scott Tuzna, along with Brian Cron. Today we're going to be talking about a recent study that was just published this month that looked at 51 competitors. They were all entering the same show. I believe it was over in Europe. Some male, some female, a little more males than females competitors here. And it just followed them throughout their contest prep. It was about a 24-week preparation where they were followed throughout this study. And basically they were looking at kind of the methodology, the basic methodology that a lot of these competitors use, how many calories they're consuming on average, their macro breakdown, and how much weight they were losing on average per week. So pretty interesting. We don't know a lot of the insights, the background into their training styles, if they were doing cardio, were they including refeeds, all that stuff. We're just getting a basic information on their general caloric intake, macro breakdown, and how much weight they were losing per week, which is it just kind of, for us, to me, it validates kind of the bodybuilding type of approach to fat loss, an approach that a lot of people will knock. They'll say we're too rigid, too extreme, too bland, too boring. Calorie counting, tracking, all this stuff doesn't work. And obviously this worked. When you look at the study here, when people are committed, I think the one element that is not discussed often enough is having an event tied into a goal like this. So these people had a contest that they were getting ready for. They're going to be on stage, so they want to look their best. There's nothing has driven me more to stick to my plan as stepping on stage. I don't want to look like a fool when I get up there. Whereas if I'm getting ready for a beach vacation or something like that, I want to look good, but if I didn't quite hit my goal, it's not a big deal. I'm close enough type thing. But really nice to kind of validate the bro approach to nutrition. What's up, Chiefy Dog?
I was like, what the hell is
that? Little yawn in the background. Let's see. What's up, dog?
Oh my gosh.
He was just snoozing here. I thought it'd be all great to record the show. He's fine.
Sorry, that scared the hell out of me. Man. I mean, well, anything that validates, like, bodybuilders are the best in the world at getting lean for a specific date. So that should be the first place we look for methods that work. And they might not always be sometimes not the healthiest methods or mentally fit methods, but they definitely know what they're doing in that respect. So
lots of things that I really liked about this study. I think so. The main thing they're really looking at preserving muscle mass here, which is a big goal for competitors. You want to drop the weight, but you want to do so in an intelligent way where you're going to preserve your muscle mass as you're dropping weight. So I think one of the things they were looking at was their macro breakdown. They wanted to see, like, are they dropping carbs? Are all these guys on low carb diets? What are they doing to keep their energy levels up and preserve muscle mass? And carb intake for the men was around 52% on average.
Yeah.
For women, it was 59%. So that's up there for carb intake. Maybe they have bigger cravings than we do for carbs, especially as they're competing. I forget what the protein intake was, but for fat, men were right around the 22%. So still I think as long as you're above 20% for guys, you're in a pretty decent spot. Fats have to drop down a bit just to make room for those calories. But it was good to see that it didn't dip below 20. But for the women, on average, it was 12%, which shocked the hell out of me. And so 12% of their diet.
So
way
that to me doesn't seem, it's possible, but it doesn't seem probable. Like 12% fat in a diet. So that's kind of raises an eyebrow with me. Like how accurate that really is. Because even if you go on just trace fats, I mean, I guess it's possible. Yeah. Sure wouldn't be fun.
Yeah. No.
Nor would it be optimal, in my opinion.
Yeah. And we've talked in the past about errors in tracking. That's the one thing I look at is it's self-reported numbers that people are giving, and there's definitely a large room for error in that. A lot of people, like when they're dieting, they tend to underestimate what they're eating when they report your stuff. But I was actually surprised with this study that the numbers were relatively high. On average, I think for the women was between 1,700 and 1,800 calories. For men, it was like above 3,000. This was at the start. I think they broke it down in phases. They broke it down 3 phases where they were reporting in, and it tapered as they got closer to the contest diet. So calories were dropping, but on average 12%. Like even if you're, I don't know if it was a reporting error, but if that's an error, obviously some women would be even lower than 12%. Some would be a little bit higher, but I almost wonder if among female competitors, if it's not so much a carb phobia that we see out there in the general population, if maybe women in prep are more fat phobic and avoiding fats, and then just to keep room for other tasty foods that are higher in carbs or something.
It does speak to the one of the problems, legitimate problem with a really strict quote unquote bodybuilding diet is you're probably eating the same foods day in, day out, like most people do, especially towards the end. And if they are exclusively using extremely low fat proteins, like tilapia and canned tuna, and even avoiding oatmeal for the trace fat, and just that is possible, and that is a legit issue with a strict bodybuilding diet, is that you can have these nutritional deficiencies, but context is everything. Like they're not following that year round. It's for hopefully like a very kind of condensed period, unless these people were prepping at 12% the whole time. I mean, that's
right. Yeah. No, I think it would have dropped down. It seems to. I'll have to take a look at that a little bit deeper, but I think it's more on average throughout that 24-week period that that it was 12%. And the crazy thing is that these people were coached. Like 88% of the women had a coach. So you've got a coach, and they're fine. Like that'd be a red flag for me. Like 12%. Hell no. You got to get that up there. I don't, especially for a women. I don't like to see them below 20% fat intake. Hormonally, I think it's gonna mess them up pretty darn good. But,
well, there's a lot, and it didn't go into other things like you mentioned. Like, did they, like kind of the minutia things we talk about, like refeeds and
their meal timing, meal frequency. None of that, which is kind of good in a sense, because those are things that a lot of people follow. Let's look at all the bodybuilders who followed intermittent fasting versus all the bodybuilders who did it. Yeah, it get crazy there. But no, it just focused on their caloric and their macro intake and kind of took that average there. So no minutia. But the great thing is that it was a nice, slow and steady process, like losing on average just under 0.5% of their total body weight per week, which is a nice, slow and steady approach, which is great. It all comes down to giving yourself enough time. That's something that a lot of people don't do when they're aiming to lose fat. It's all about the 12-week contest. And here there's like doubled the time of a normal transformation that you see out there. So that was really good to see. I'm going to let my dog out. You can keep talking there.
Well, I'm always very skeptical of anything where it's self-reported to. I always factor in a high degree of skepticism, because especially in that competitive, like when people start getting really deprived, the numbers tend to get fudged a little bit. And I know a great many coaches who deliberately, not saying I've never done this, but they will deliberately set calories low, just knowing that their clients they're gonna come in higher anyway.
Yeah.
So they kind of fabricate in a buffer. And it works. I try not to do that too often. I admit I've done that with myself. I'll deliberately, set my numbers on the low end, knowing that, out of kind of laziness, that I'll probably come in, because I don't measure super strictly all the time. I'm coming in a couple hundred calories over, and I still get to the same place. So that is a limitation with anything that's like self-reported like that. So unless they're getting their meals delivered to them by whomever's conducting the study, and everything's controlled, and they're being followed around by somebody with a taser. So if they like graze at something, they get zapped. You have to always kind of like, take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think this was just kind of the cool thing about it. It was just getting a general idea of a typical kind of prep that people would go through. And I'm sure all of them had their own little intricacies, their little differences and everything. And that's a good thing too. Just finding something that works for you just based on a caloric intake, your macro breakdown that suits you best, and just knowing more than anything what's going to allow you to take that nice, slow, and steady approach. But yeah, I think the big takeaways from this is to give yourself time. Like take that slow and steady approach, and
but you do things a bit differently, though. I know you prefer to jump in a little bit more aggressively than actually bring calories up a little bit.
So this was these guys in this study. On average, people like their calories dropped. I think it was lower, like at the end towards the contest date. It was like 500 to 800 calories less than at the beginning. So that's a pretty significant drop from the beginning time frame. I prefer to do the opposite. Like, especially when they said like the focus of this was to preserve lean muscle mass. I like to, in the beginning, when you have more fat on your body, be more aggressive because you're less likely to lose muscle mass the more fat you have. The leaner you get, especially if you're contest lean, if you try to be aggressive with your diet at that point, you're going to be like you're increasing your risk of losing some lean body mass there. So if I start more aggressive and then slowly bumping up my calories, or my deficit is smaller and smaller, really, like ideally for me, I like to get as damn close to maintenance by the time contest comes. I feel like I look fuller, I kind of grow into the show. So give yourself plenty of time where like towards the end, I'm right there, damn close to maintenance. I look fuller, I'm more energetic on the stage. And then when the contest is over, I'm at maintenance. Like I'm there to maintain. There's no rebound. I'm less likely to rebound. And I find towards the end of contest prep, when your body fat is really, really low, your mind can fuck with you. So if you allow yourself to have a little bit more food in your diet, I find you're less likely to go through to lose your mind there, basically. So I think if you're already you're super lean, you've been dieting for 24 weeks here, like the idea of getting more and more aggressive, it's like a more and more stress sign. Like I can't wait for this to be over. I can't wait for this to be over. So I prefer to take the opposite approach there. It makes sense. I mean, the way they do it is pretty much typical. And the reason for lowering your calories is that your metabolic rate lowers. Like you lose body weight, your metabolism is going to slow down. You don't burn as many calories. So
you just move less.
You end up, and I guess that's the other reason why I like to bump up my calories as I go, I have more energy. Like I said, I get on stage, I'm feeling good about myself while everyone else is looking run down. So that's I kind of like to take that opposite approach there. But
and it also, though, it does depend on the population you're working with. Like if you're not like that's a contest specific context, where if you're working with someone who's just they want to get lean for the first time or the second time, you kind of give them as much as they can handle and then slowly take it away as they build confidence and as they get used to it,
Yep.
So it's a different kind
of... It's very individual. That's an awesome... Yeah. That's an excellent point. It is very individual because there's going to be some people who they need that instant gratification, that immediate, I'm in a deficit, I'm dieting down right now, I need to see that scale move. I need to feel some sort of... it's paying off. Whereas other people, it's like, all right, let's ease into this. I don't want to feel too deprived right now. I want to sustain this for a little longer. I'm in this for the long haul. Then, I like that approach of easing into it. Then as they get into that groove, all right, I can handle this. I can take a little bit more. It's both smart approaches.
Yeah, and what do they have in common though is a structure and a plan, and not like crazy throwing gimmicks and tricks and chicanery, metabolic chicanery and shit. Just like setting a plan, sticking to it, and not making rapid adjustments. Like that's giving yourself a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like those are the really important factors. So cool.
Exactly. Very cool, man. Yeah. It would be fun to see more insights into everything else that goes on in their lifestyle, their training. Do they do cardio? How are they sleeping?
Yeah.
Supplements, it did break it down. They were taking more supplements than the average person, but in part, I think a lot of that caffeine was a big one for them.
Yeah.
So obviously they're feeling pretty tired and run down, trying to keep their energy up as they're getting closer. But like protein supplements, all that, they had a list of things that they were taking. It's kind of standard stuff to get them through the prep there. But yeah, it would have been nice to have some more insights. But at the same time, I'm really glad that it was bare bones basic, just focused on the intake that they were going for and the consistent progress. It was all about consistency and tracking and just staying on top of it. So
because that's literally 90% of it.
Exactly. Very cool. I'll make sure I link down below to the study there. You guys can take a look at it. The whole thing is out there in the public, and it's pretty interesting stuff to take a look at. And that's it for today. Physique Mastery Podcast. We'll catch you again next time.